Hey guys, Chubbs here, and I thought I'd bring you all some first impressions of Far Cry 5. Now, I've not played the game a ton, but I have put several hours into it, and I've been going through one of the regions in the game. And I feel like I have a pretty good idea of how the game plays, and so I thought I'd just let you all know what I like about it, what I sort of dislike about it, and just give you my overall opinion of the game thus far. So I've been going through one of the regions in the game. The world is broken up into 3 regions, and each region is basically ruled by a specific cult member. Now, what's really interesting about this game, right off the bat, is that it puts a much bigger emphasis on exploration than Far Cry 3 and 4 did, in my opinion. And the way it does this is it takes away the tower climbing completely, so you no longer climb towers to reveal the map. Instead, you reveal the map by merely walking around the world, and you'll occasionally have like these signposts, and if you look at them, it'll give you information on nearby locations. Like, for example, if you see a sign along the side of the road with a deer on it, and you look at that sign, then it will mark several locations on your map where you can hunt deer. You can also find these magazines laying around in houses and places like that, and if you read some of those magazines, they'll reveal locations, and you can also reveal locations by speaking to some of the people who are like members of the resistance, and they will let you know about nearby special characters and things like that. So I really like the way that they have put an emphasis on exploration, so you're no longer just climbing these towers and having the map automatically revealed. You are actually having to go out there and reveal it yourself, and put in some legwork, and I think it makes the game more interesting that way. They've also completely taken away the mini-map, which, on paper that might not sound like a real big deal, but when you start to play the game, it makes quite a difference. Instead of a mini-map, you have this sort of compass at the top of the screen. It almost reminds me of something from like Skyrim or Fallout. You don't have like the 360-degree accuracy and info that would come with a mini-map, and so that requires you to be more observant. You have to pay attention more to the world around you. You have to listen. You have to look more closely at things, because that mini-map is not going to be there to hold your hand like it did in the previous Far Cry games. Now, something else that I really like about this game that's a huge change is that instead of having a series of linear missions that you just sort of hit like one after another, sort of like Call of Duty style, this time around the game has you going into these regions in any order and hitting the different objectives and things like that in any order that you like. So basically, the setup of the game is that you go into a region, you cause as much chaos as possible, and then once you've done that, you kind of lure the cult leader of that region out, and then you're supposed to go kill that cult leader. At least that's what I gather. I've not killed any of them yet, but basically you're going around the world, you're doing things to cause chaos, like you're destroying the cult's property, you are taking outposts back, you are rescuing hostages, things like that. So you can do this in any order you want. You can basically make your own path to the end of the game instead of just doing these linear missions. And this is a big problem I always had with Far Cry 3 and 4, is that they had this open world, but when it came to doing like the story stuff and advancing in the story, it's like you were just walking along a straight path. And in Far Cry 5, I think they've done a fantastic job of finally using the entire world for basically the entire playthrough of the story. I think that's a big change, and I think it's a much more interesting setup, and it's far less limited than the setup that was in Far Cry 3 and 4. Now, one of my favorite new features in this game that really changes it up is the guns for hire. This is basically like an AI companion system where you can go around and you can hire like these random resistance members to fight with you, but the coolest ones that you can hire are these special characters that you'll find every once in a while, and they have very unique abilities, and they also tend to have like a unique look to them. For example, there's a dog. I think the dog's name is Boomer. And the dog's special ability is that it can automatically mark any nearby enemies, and that can be very handy. And whenever it attacks an enemy and kills them, sometimes it'll randomly fetch their weapon and bring it to you. There's also this really cool gun for hire that I just recently unlocked, I think he was shown in the E3 video, but he's like this redneck pilot, and when you call him in to help you, he stays in the plane up in the air, and he'll do like these strafing runs and these bombing runs, and it's just really cool. So you can use these guys to help you. It's almost like having a co-op teammate or something, but it's just all done by the AI, and I think that adds a lot to the game, and it's just really fun giving these guys commands and watching them kill the enemies, especially the pilot. That's my favorite one thus far. Now, those were the things that I like and that I think are very interesting. Now, as far as the stuff that I'm not so impressed with, there is still a lot of old stuff that's being carried over from the previous Far Cry's, and it sort of starts to feel stale. Some examples of this are you still have like the same enemy tagging system. Clearing outposts is more or less the same thing. You still have the alarms in the outposts, and you want to disable the alarms. Otherwise, if you're spotted, they'll raise the alarm and reinforcements will come in. So, all that stuff's really just copy paste. You still have the same system where you gather plants and then you use those to craft these syringes that give you different abilities. Most of the weapons tend to be, more or less like the same stuff we've already seen. The bow and arrow, the, same old assault rifles, RPGs, all this stuff. We've seen it time and time again. Also, most of the same gadgets like your grappling hook, your wingsuit, your parachute. So it's kind of disappointing to see so many of these things regurgitated, especially when Far Cry 3 is so old now. I think it came out like back around 2012 or 11. I really wish they would put more brand new stuff in that we've never seen before, like as far as weapons and gadgets and brand new systems in the game. But, there is a lot of old stuff there. Now, with that being said, I do feel like there's enough new stuff in the game for it to be enjoyable. So I'm not saying that the entire game is just a rehash, but again, I do wish that there was maybe less of the old recycled stuff and more of the new stuff. Some more frustrations that I have are you can't change weapon attachments on the fly. They're still using the same system where you basically have to customize your weapon at the shop. I really wish that they would implement a Crisis-like system where you can change your attachments right there on the fly out in the field. I hate having to just go back to the shop every time. That's really annoying and kind of limits how you can play. Some other complaints I have are that you can no longer rest to pass time for whatever reason. Like if you're out playing and let's say it turns night and you would rather have it be day, well, as far as I can tell, there's really nothing you can do. You might be able to speed it up by fast traveling around, but that's kind of a nuisance. There's just no way to rest whatsoever. I'm not sure why they removed that from the game. That's kind of bizarre to me. And something else that really bugs me and that a lot of people have been complaining about is the spawn rate for enemies, especially like on the roads, borders on being ridiculous. I mean, my God, these cult guys like spawn every fucking where. You'll be driving down the road and it's like you'll see a brand new pickup truck or something with cult members in it like every 5 seconds it feels like. Like these guys just keep popping up out of nowhere. It sucks because, these encounters, they aren't interesting or challenging. When these guys appear, you can kill them pretty easily. But they are a nuisance, and if you try and ignore them, sometimes they'll just keep chasing you in their trucks and whatnot, and it's just, I really wish they had toned that down a lot. I would rather the enemies be mostly around the objectives, like the outposts and the shrines and things like that. One last complaint that I have is that the quality of the graphics can vary pretty wildly. Sometimes this game looks beautiful, and other times it looks really outdated. And one of the things that bothers me in particular about the graphics is that the anti-aliasing in this game is complete garbage. You basically only have two options. You have SMAA, which barely does anything, and then you have TAA. And TAA basically, it gets rid of most of the jaggies, but it blurs the image as well. So basically either you use SMAA and you have all kinds of jaggies, or you use TAA and you just blur the screen. So it sucks. Really the only thing you can do to get past that I've found is to use super sampling. I have mine set to 1.5, I think. I had to bump it all the way up, and what I had to do is turn a bunch of the graphic settings down. That way the super sampling wouldn't murder my frame rate. But You know, it really sucks that they didn't put a better anti-aliasing solution in this game. So that being said, I think overall, you know, Far Cry 5 is a cool game. I'm not sure it does enough new things to recommend it for someone who's totally burnt out on the franchise, but I do love that they have put more of an emphasis on exploration. I love how you can hit the world and the missions in any order you want to. And like I said earlier, I think the Guns for Hire system is really cool. I think it's awesome being able to get these different AI companions that have their own weapons and abilities and watch them go to work out there. And it's just a lot of fun to play that way. So I think it's a pretty cool game. Is it worth the money? I can't say for sure. I would have to probably play it more to say for sure whether or not it's worth 50 or 60 bucks. I will say though that I like the direction they've taken the Far Cry franchise in with this game. I feel like this game represents what Far Cry 4 should have been all along, you know, with the lack of the towers and more of the exploration and the more free-form kind of mission structure. I think this is really the direction they should have taken years ago, but I'm glad they finally took it now. I think the engine this game runs on is really starting to show its age. Hopefully they'll get a new engine with the next Far Cry and still carry over some of this exploration and maybe do some more new things to make it feel less regurgitated. But those are my impressions of the game overall. Hope you guys have enjoyed. If you've played the game, feel free and leave your own impressions below. And if you have any questions about the game, you know, feel free and comment below as well. Thank you guys for watching, and this is Chubb signing out.